Right now, without thinking, you are doing something no other animal on Earth does quite like you. You are constructing reality out of nothing, not with your hands, with sounds. You are taking invisible vibrations in the air and using them to move thoughts from inside your skull into someone else's. And you have been doing this so long, so automatically, that it feels like breathing, like it was always there. Most people assume language is simply something humans developed, a tool, like fire or the wheel, that we picked up when we needed it. But that's not quite right, because for the vast majority of human existence, there was no language at all. And what filled that silence is stranger and more intimate than anything we invented afterward. Anatomically modern humans have existed for roughly 300,000 years. Complex spoken language, the kind with grammar, syntax, embedded clauses, and abstract reference, appears to have emerged somewhere between 50,000 and 100,000 years ago. Some researchers push that estimate even later, which means that for at least 200,000 years, and possibly much longer, human beings lived, grieved, fell in love, raised children, buried their dead, and navigated an extraordinarily dangerous world without a single word to describe any of it. 200,000 years. For context, all of recorded human history, every empire, every war, every written idea, fits inside the last 5,000. The wordless era was not a brief gap. It was the almost unimaginable majority of what it has meant to be human. And the question that follows is the one almost nobody asks. What were we actually doing in there? In 2009, archaeologist Francesco De Rico and his team at the University of Bordeaux published findings from the Blombos Cave in South Africa, a site that would quietly rewrite the timeline of human cognition. Inside the cave, buried under 75,000 years of sediment, they found ochre pieces etched with deliberate geometric patterns, cross-hatchings, repetitive lines, symbols with no obvious survival function. They also found shell beads, pierced and likely strung. Objects that only make sense if someone else is meant to see them. No words, but an unmistakable intention to communicate, to be perceived, to mean something to another mind across a distance. What De Rico and others concluded was that symbolic thinking, the cognitive root of language, arrived long before language itself. The capacity for meaning preceded the machinery for speaking it. But that's only part of what was happening in the silence. And here's where it gets strange. Researchers studying pre-linguistic cognition, including psychologist Michael Corballis at the University of Auckland, have proposed that before spoken language dominated, humans communicated primarily through gesture, not simple gesture. Elaborate, layered, intentional bodily communication that may have carried the structural complexity we now associate with speech.
Corballis argues that language itself likely evolved from a gestural system, that the hands came first and the mouth followed. The evidence lives in your brain.
Broca's area, the region most associated with speech production, is also activated when you watch someone perform a meaningful hand movement. It was never purely a speech center. It was always a meaning center. Gesture, gaze, facial expression, touch, proximity, these were not primitive substitutes for language. They were the original language. A system so finely tuned that humans could coordinate hunts, negotiate relationships, communicate grief and desire and warning, all without a phoneme. The mouth learned to do what the body already knew how to say. You still speak this older language. Right now, without any conscious decision, your body is broadcasting. The angle of your shoulders, how much of your face you are showing, whether your breath is shallow or deep, where your eyes move when someone says something that costs you something. These signals are not decorations around your words. They are older than your words. In experiments by psychologist Albert Mehrabian, often misquoted, always relevant, emotional communication was found to rely overwhelmingly on nonverbal channels when verbal and nonverbal cues conflict. Your nervous system did not forget the pre-linguistic system. It runs it simultaneously, underneath everything you say, checking it against everything you hear. When someone tells you they are fine and your body does not believe them, that is not intuition. That is your 200,000-year-old communication system, doing exactly what it was built for. Language gave us civilization. It gave us science, philosophy, literature, law. It allowed one mind to survive inside another across centuries, but it also created something that did not exist before it. The possibility of saying one thing while meaning another, of performing a self rather than simply being one. Every pre-linguistic human who sat around a fire, who pressed an ochre-stained hand to a cave wall, who held another person in silence after a loss, they could not hide behind words. What they felt moved through them directly, without translation. We gained everything when we learned to speak. It is worth knowing what we traded for it.